First story of this episode. The OP is asking advice about his ex-girlfriend who dumped him a year back, saying there's just something missing in their relationship. Then move on to another guy within a month. Now she calls him asking for refuge because the new boyfriend is a little too handsy with her. Let's read the story. Original post. My 28 male, ex-girlfriend, 34 female, and I were together for about 2.5 years. She broke up with me about a year ago because, according to her, there was something missing in our relationship. I envisioned myself getting married and having a family with her, so the breakup hit me really hard. It also didn't help that she moved on to her next relationship with her current boyfriend only a month after our breakup. It was a very hard time for me, but I was able to get over it by working on myself, and I'm now doing better than ever. A few days ago, I got a call from my ex-girlfriend. It was her basically crying to me and saying that her boyfriend physically mistreats her and has hit her on multiple occasions. I was surprised because this was pretty much the first time she has contacted me since our breakup, so I didn't really know what to say. She then asked me if I could help her by letting her stay with me because they live together. I then asked if she had called the police on her boyfriend, and she answered that she doesn't want to get the authorities involved. I told her that she should call the cops because they are the only ones that can solve her situation. She kept repeating that she didn't want to get the cops involved. She also kept asking if she could stay with me. I told her that I'm in no way going to interfere in this situation of hers. I straight up told her that I under no circumstances will let her stay with me, but that I'm willing to help her contact the authorities to solve the situation. She still kept asking to stay with me and I kept refusing until I hung up the call. There are a few reasons that I didn't want to help her. First off, she is my ex, so truth be told, I don't owe her anything. Second of all, I know for a fact she has other options for housing because her parents and friends live nearby. Also, I do not want to involve myself in a situation with a violent person that could possibly backfire on me. Who knows what that guy is capable of? Lastly, I didn't want to help her because she hasn't reported him to the police. I am willing to help her contact the authorities to solve the situation, but other than that, I'm not getting myself involved. Despite having my reasons not to help her, I still feel guilty in a way. I don't really know how I can help her otherwise in this situation, and I feel like if she hasn't even called the police on him, there is really nothing else to do. How do you guys suggest I deal with this situation? Now for the top advice before reading the little update. Could you at least contact her parents and let them know what's going on? There's a good chance she's been isolated from friends and family if her BF is doing this to her. She might have called you as a last-ditch desperate effort to get away. The reason she wouldn't want to get authorities involved is because they will most likely show up, find it hard to determine what happened, give some advice about couples counseling, and then leave her there with him, to where he might retaliate for her calling the authorities. He might even end her. I understand how you don't want anything to do with her, but please at least tell her parents what's going on so they can at least try to help. She's in serious danger right now, and it's bigger than she's my ex, so I don't feel like dealing with it. You're not obligated to house her, but please at minimum contact her parents. This is important. The desire to help is there, or else you wouldn't have posted, but the need to get others involved should be paramount. People like this boyfriend are violent people, and if you are going to take someone in who is being mistreated, as horrible as this is, that fight might find its way to your front door or more. So, an approach where you seek out help for this person, but don't throw yourself in the middle of a melee accomplishes helping them and not hurting yourself. I'm not going to pull any punches here. You feel guilty because the humane thing to do in this situation is give her a place to crash. That being said, you are under no obligation to help her. You're right, you could very easily make yourself a target too. You have to look out for yourself too. What I cannot stand about this post, however, is the belief you seem to hold that she is refusing help because she's not letting you help her call the authorities. Calling the authorities is a great way for her to get herself ended if she doesn't have a safe place to go. Period. Any survivor can tell you there is an exceedingly high chance that he will explain it all away. Paint her as the aggressor, get off scot-free. She'll get told to get a restraining order, and then she's going to be stuck in the same house with someone unstable, who is now very, very angry. Getting the authorities involved is something you do after you're safe, or when you're actively on death's door. There is likely no other safe alternative for her. But I would not advise he allow her to stay with him. That puts him at risk physically. Now for the little update. Like most of you suggested, I'll try to get in contact with a close family member of hers and explaining the situation to them. I'll also give her some info to some shelters that could provide her resources. But other than that, I'm keeping myself out of everything. Under no circumstances will I be meeting up with her or anybody in her life physically. I also won't help her out financially in any way. Next story is titled, I want to leave my hometown or maybe the whole country to get rid of my family, but my husband disagrees. Original post, I'm getting all kind of grief because I refuse my family to meet my children. I might just leave the country. About 6 years ago, my female 35, sister's female 25 then boyfriend, male 27 now husband, tried to force himself on me when I crashed on their sofa after a night out because they lived in town and I didn't. I didn't want to commute in the middle of the night because I was scared of being attacked, so I texted my sister and she said I could stay there. I was dozing off when I felt him, but I was very drunk and high and too weak to push him off me successfully. My sister woke up when she heard my cries and came to investigate, but she thought it was something consensual. He then said I seduced him and said she would testify against me if I reported him. She told everyone what I've done, and I lost my whole family. No one wanted to have anything to do with me. My then fiancé, male 44 now husband, was the only one who believed me and he asked me to move in with him because I was getting threats from my sister's boyfriend because I ended up reporting him anyway. The case was dropped because the only witness to what happened stood against me. I tried to reach out to my parents and my 2 other siblings, male 30 and female 27, but they just said they were ashamed of me and that I've ruined their reputation. We live in a small town and I've seen my family sometimes in some public space, but they pretend they didn't see me, and so did I. My husband and I got married a year after that incident, and now I have a daughter over 1 year old and I'm 7 months pregnant with my second. Last month when I was at the mall, I just heard someone yell my name. I was terrified and automatically started running with the stroller because I thought I was being attacked. It isn't unusual that someone yelled profanity at me that knew my sister and her husband. It was my mom, however, accompanied by my middle sister and my aunt, and they managed to catch up and my mother grabbed the stroller and turned it towards her and started touching and kissing my daughter. I freaked out and started pushing her away, but she insisted to see her grandchild because that's her right. She said she's been meaning to reach out when I gave birth and that I was appalling not to ask her and my dad to come see my baby. She's their first grandchild and they had the right. Finally, a cop came to ask what was going on, and I could run away. My parents are now waging a war against me for refusing to let them see my children. They are threatening to sue for custody, while my husband is trying to get restraining order against them. I haven't left our apartment since, because I'm too terrified to meet any of my family again. I was just so confused by the sudden interest in me, and found out that my sister's now husband who tried to do that to me has 2 other women coming forward. One is a friend of my sister some months before he did it with me, and one from his work 6 months ago. My sister knew and helped him cover it, and now that my family found out, they've dropped her. I told my husband that I want to leave this town and maybe this whole country, and he became very angry and told me that he can't let my past ruin his life anymore, and that I should take responsibility for my crazy family. I understand him, but I can't take it anymore. I have been living in fear and humiliation for so long and I want to move away. The problem is that my friends and even in-laws thinks I'm cruel for depriving my parents and my children the chance to start anew and be with each other. Now for the top advice before the little update. Screw your parents and your family. They didn't believe you when you told them that you were violated. They have zero right to see your child. Live your life with your husband. Move away with him if you can. The most important thing at this point is for you and your husband to be on the same page about this. The 2 of you need to talk it through and decide on what you want to do about everything, and then always have each other's backs. It's a town with 20,000 people. I'm so tired of everything. I'm seen as the loose woman who seduced her brother-in-law. It won't wash out now. What future do my children have? I just wanted to let you know that if they attempt to sue for custody, they will fail miserably. I can't even imagine an attorney taking this case. Assuming you even live in a state, and assuming you're in the US where grandparents' rights exist, the requirement is that they already have an established relationship with the children. Since they have never met your kids, they have no case. And if somehow they are able to take you to court, you have a very good justification and plenty of documentation to prove that you are no contact with them for very good reason. They'd be laughed out of court. You can't take responsibility for someone else's problems. Doesn't your husband care that your crazy family could kidnap or traumatize your children? Also, consider what might happen if your daughter is around your brother-in-law. She doesn't need to become a victim. I have been thinking about fleeing since my daughter was born. As long as it was just me, I felt I could at least ignore the harassment and the reputation. But now all I think of is if my past catches up. What if my daughter found out about my past or my family's past and be bullied? I can't sleep thinking of all that happened and still happening, and people's treatment of me and the way they look at me. It won't change even with the truth. Now for the little update. Thanks everyone for the support. I've shown my husband this post and moving away seems to make more sense to him now. Since I'm too terrified to leave the apartment, I'm going to take my maternity leave earlier. My husband has started applying jobs elsewhere. I'll also find a job easier after I've given birth since I'm a nurse. I finally feel like I could breathe. Thank you again. Now for the last story. Mother-in-law cheated on her husband, stepfather-in-law, and now my wife and I are fighting. My wife and I, both 35, have been together for 10 years. We generally have a great relationship. My mother-in-law and stepfather-in-law have been together for about 15 years. Mother-in-law is not a nice person in general, but the way she treats and talks to stepfather-in-law has always bothered me. I don't like mother-in-law as a person, but have always been kind and friendly with her. About a week ago, stepfather-in-law called my wife and told her that mother-in-law was cheating on him again. Previous time was about 3 years ago and they decided to work through it, and that they are going to separate because he is tired of being treated like this and having to kiss her butt. The main thing he talked about was wanting to keep in touch with us, and that he's still just one phone call away. We've always had a great relationship with him, so this makes perfect sense. I could hear the entire conversation and felt sick to my stomach for stepfather-in-law. I felt angry that mother-in-law couldn't just be a decent person and end the relationship before moving on. Mother-in-law doesn't know that stepfather-in-law called, or that we know anything. My wife decided that she was just going to sit on the information for a few days and not respond or engage, which I thought was a really good idea. I understand that it's not really our business, even though this information had been thrust upon us. Well, Friday my mother-in-law called, and my wife went into another room and shut the door to have a conversation. I did hear that mother-in-law is still planning a trip to see us this summer, and their house is going on the market when their mortgage comes up for renewal in August. At the end of the call, my wife came out of the room with it on speakerphone. Mother-in-law said, "Hey OP," like she was the cheeriest, happiest person. I gave back a very unenthusiastic hi that I will admit sounded rude. As soon as my wife hung up, she lost it on me. She went to the bedroom and slammed the door about 8 times. I was confused, honestly. So, during the argument that followed, here are some of the key points. Stepfather-in-law is weak and pathetic for airing their dirty laundry, and that it's none of our business. Stepfather-in-law is manipulating us to feel sympathetic towards him, and wife is angry that it worked on me. Wife thinks they're both idiots and is angry at them both equally. Wife thinks we are supposed to pretend we don't know this information. Wife now needs to explain my rude behavior to mother-in-law. Wife thinks I'm making this more difficult on her and that I'm inconsiderate. I honestly thought this was a wild overreaction, especially the part about stepfather-in-law being weak for wanting to talk about what happened. I've had friends confess their issues with partners' infidelity and would never shame them for it. I also didn't know we were supposed to pretend we don't know. Had my wife communicated this with me, I would have said hi in a better tone. I apologized to my wife multiple times. I told my wife that I would call or text mother-in-law and apologize for my short response, and tell her I was just in a bad mood about a sports team or something along those lines. It didn't have to be about mother-in-law at all, especially when she doesn't think I know anything about their marital situation anyway. There has been no further discussion on this. We hardly spoke all day Saturday, and I'm worried today will be the same. I feel like I'm at a complete loss of anything else to do or say other than continuing to apologize. I understand my wife may be processing this information differently and could be having a rough time, but she's not talking about it with me. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. I apologized to my wife multiple times. I told my wife that I would call or text mother-in-law and apologize for my short response and tell her I was just in a bad mood about sports team or something along those lines. Why would you apologize? Seems to me that you are not standing up for yourself and your beliefs. Seems like your wife and mother-in-law are in control of your household. Your wife is repeating the same behavior that your mother-in-law did to her ex and soon-to-be ex-husband. OP is great at seeing how badly his stepfather-in-law is being treated, but unable to recognize that his wife acts the same. Chances are he's, if anything, more blind to what is happening to him. Why are you apologizing to your wife? You did nothing wrong. Also, big red flag wave from your wife for calling your stepfather-in-law weak, pathetic, and manipulative. Ask her how he was responsible for her mother cheating on him twice. Pay attention to her answer, so you'll understand when she does it to you. If mother-in-law discussed selling the house, she probably also discussed them getting divorced. Ask your wife for details of her conversation with her mother. Guarantee she manipulated the facts to make herself look like some kind of victim. Personally, if I was in your position, I would be having a serious discussion with my wife about her reaction, because it is not normal. Weak and pathetic on the one hand, and manipulative on the other, are more or less mutually exclusive. which proves that wife is talking BS here. And I wouldn't apologize more than once. Once is, in this case, more than enough. After that, it's her problem. Please come and talk to me when you're reasonable again.